Hi and good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's clear and blue skies here in Minnesota, and it's quite the experience yesterday with the weather and the blue skies and the snow and the rain, and just a real shift of different weather experiences. So it looks like today is gonna have a little bit of the same, and from a mindfulness perspective, which is some of what we've been talking about in these morning reflections, it always reminds me of how the weather and the seasons are a good metaphor for our human moods and emotions, and how our moods are like the seasons. They last over a longer horizon of time, and our moods look like a season. They allow certain weather in and block certain weather. Similarly, our moods, like a season, they block certain emotions and promote other emotions. And so, for example, I think of on a somatic or a mind-body level, summer allows for the weather of often rain, extreme heat, but often doesn't allow for snow. And similarly, on the emotional side, if we use that metaphor, we have, if we're in a mood of anxiety, that may allow for the emotions of fear, but may not allow for the emotions of hope. So when we do our mood checks and we do our centering at the end before we meditate, that's another way to see it, poetically or metaphorically, is that we're shifting the seasons within ourselves. And so nature's a great metaphor. It teaches about ourselves, and so that's what comes to mind. Good morning, Darlene, and good morning, Elizabeth. Great to see both of you today. And so today I'd like to just continue on, just to share some more about reflections on independent will. So far, what's been inspired for me to share from learning that I've done, experiences I've had, is in the area of the mental side of independent will, the linguistic side, how we express and swim upstream, take a stand with our language, with our words, and then also on a bodily level, how do we do that? How do we take physical action where we take a stand? And yesterday we just talked about one area is taking the project planning, which is a business skill set, taking that traditional business planning skill set and using like an inspired project planning skill set that really embraces all the components, especially the beginning components of writing down one's core values, your mission, having a vision board, having a vision statement, writing out a vision narrative that's meaningful to you, and then as we're going through bringing that creative project into the world, is referring back to it on a regular basis, keeping those images at the forefront of our mind, reading the narrative or reciting the narrative of what future success is going to feel like and is going to look like. And so I think that's really, really important, because as I shared in my written reflection, often, at least my experience, we can get really excited to have a really inspired conversation, and then our conditioning, our collective conditioning, is to just get down to the logistics, the objectives, the goals, and the tasks, and somehow the inspired vision is never mentioned again. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and my belief and my experience is that changes and limits the potential of what we're bringing into the world, whatever creative endeavor we're inspired to bring in, whether it's a business, whether it's a painting, whether it's some new form of communication system, whatever it is. Could just be even a craft we're doing at home that if we can hold that inspired image of what it was that originally came to us, and keep it at the forefront of our mind frequently throughout the process and the project, it will change the result. And my experience is that it changes for the positive the experience along the way, of more enjoyment, more enthusiasm along the way, less frustration, less less resentment when roadblocks come up, and it actually changes the end result, because we're holding that image of what success is, and we're constantly correcting to it, versus just getting what's the word? Sometimes if we aren't connected to the inspired vision and what it's about, we can get so busy with the gratification. That's the word I'm looking for. We can get so get so hypnotized by the gratification of achieving goals and knocking out tasks that we start to we don't even notice that we're off course on what the original destination was. And that has a lot to do with our the reward system in our brain, in our limbic brain. There's a biochemical reward for achievement, and so if we can learn how to use that mindfully with self-awareness, we can use that to our advantage to bring things to their original vision, and not just get distracted by goal achievement and task completion. So with that, that's the next piece that I just wanted to share on project planning as a mental discipline in order to help bring our creative visions into the world. On this sheet here that I created for this recent project planning class, then I move into the after I finish the softer side, or the more creative side, then I start to weave in the logistics: who, what, when, where, why, how, which is more traditional. And then what I wanted to talk today about is, and it is the more traditional thing to do is then set objectives. 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives that need to be achieved in order to accomplish the vision. And then often it's common to set goals. So you can set process goals, performance goals, or outcome goals. And then underneath those goals, we often make them SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, which I think are all great. And then there are tasks underneath each one of those that support that goal achievement. So just a few reflections here to bring the self-awareness piece bring the creativity piece into the process here. And the first thing I'd like to share is this around a complement to objectives. So often it's very common to write out objectives, in other words, observable, measurable things that will have changed when we arrive at the vision. And I think that's really important because that tells us that we have shifted the outside world. We've made our intentions, our actions have shifted in a measurable way the outside world, which is important. And what I often don't hear about in goal setting or project planning or just in business in general, with my years of practice in mind-body meditation, somatics, what I don't hear people talk about is subjectives. What are the subjectives of the project? It's just a term that I've never read anywhere, but it just came to me one day when I was, something seemed to be missing to me when the conversation was around objectives. And I thought, well, what are the subjectives, and why don't we write those down? Our commitment to the emotional state that we are committing to hold throughout the project. In other words, what I've sensed is that once we set objectives, it can easily become very Machiavellian with our objective completion, and our activities can be very Machiavellian in that the ends justify the means. So if we don't have a set of subjectives that we're going to hold ourselves to, and what I mean by that is, okay, we have the vision, we have the vision statement, we're clear on what future success is going to look like, feel like, and then we go about working towards the objectives. And in that process, what I've noticed is, I'm just going to adjust this here. What I've noticed is that we often we're in the middle of a project and we're feeling continually frustrated and exhausted or tired, and the measure is moving in a positive direction on our objectives, but at what cost to our energetic or emotional state? And my sense is that that's because we haven't set conditions of satisfaction for the subjectives of the project. In other words, one way to do that is to say, hey, my objective is to I'm trying to think of a recent project, or let's use a business example. Someone's a business artist, an entrepreneur, and they say they want to have a new product or service out into the market that they're inspired to bring, and they want to have the financing for it all set up by, the objective is by June 1st. Without subjectives, if they set subjectives that as they go about the process of preparing that and having the conversations and doing the logistical details, if they say, and on the way there, my commitment is that I'm going to hold a mental emotional state of either acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm along the way, if they set that as a personal condition of satisfaction, if in reflection day to day they find themselves resentful, frustrated, those negative emotional states may tell that person that it's not a worthy objective. If moving towards that is constantly just bringing in emotional pollution into their life and into their family, it may be a sign that their emotions are telling them that maybe it need to adjust the objective so that they can get back into more of those positive states. So just a reflection on if we set objectives, also considering setting subjectives, personal conditions of satisfaction of mental emotional states that we are committed to hold along the path of achievement. Then with regard to goals, I think goals are, SMART goals are pretty conventional, and I think they're really wonderful. There are great ways to direct and focus our attention as we bring our creativity into the world. And but what often I think is just good to remember are the three kinds of goals, which are process goals. Those are behavior-based goals that don't have any external achievement. They give us a sense of reward just for being in the practice. I think that's important. Performance goals are measurable changes that we've made relative to our starting point. And then outcome goals are more traditional competition-based goals where we're comparing our movement forward or our achievement relative to some external measure. We might be looking at how far a friend of ours has gotten on their project, or a competitor has, how they're doing in the marketplace. Or we might be watching, might bring a creative project that we're watching how others are doing online or on the TV to see, how am I doing? Is there something I can learn here from how they're doing things? So those are the three kinds of goals, and I think it's there's no one right way to do them. They really have to do with how we are made up, and so some people like to incorporate outcome goals in there, more competition-based goals. It motivates them, it builds them up, it makes them stronger. Some people, it makes them wilt. The moment they any kind of comparison is negative in their history. So my experience is some people thrive when they let go of all comparison, all competition, and they focus just exclusively on process goals and just the behaviors, just staying in the process. Regardless of how we create that structure, what I do believe is that the majority of our goals we want to set up as process goals. It's like a pyramid. So most of our goals are process goals that we have total choice and influence and control over achieving them, and then 20% maybe having those as performance goals, measurable changes we're making towards the outcome, and then we can sometimes sprinkle in those outcome goals for friendly competition or motivation. But the key is that with process goals being the majority of what we're focusing on, and that we have the most influence over them, the goal is that we build our self-efficacy, our self-confidence through their achievement, so we can grow with success or we can grow with failure, because we have this base of success that is not is within our total influence and choice, and then we can take those moments where we have successes and we have failures, and we can learn how to reflect on them and become a student of our successes, become a student of our failures, and we grow regardless. I think that's the real key in any kind of accomplishment or forward movement, that we build a mental emotional state where we grow from conflict or harmony. We can grow from both. And I take that a little bit further in my own experience, and in every success, if we reflect, there are ways we could have improved it, And in every failure, there are successes if we just look for them. And I think of the volunteer work I do with the Scouts here in my hometown. And that's just a standard practice in that youth leadership training is a reflection after every single experience. No matter how successful it was, no matter how challenging it was, we sit in a circle and we do roses, thorns, and buds. Roses, what went well; thorns, what didn't go well, and how can we do differently the next time; and buds, what are the new goals or the new ideas that we can bring into reality the next time we do something similar. So I think that having a regular time of reflection throughout a creative project is important because it keeps us on an upward spiral of growth, and we're learning, we're cultivating pragmatic wisdom, practical wisdom that comes through direct experience. So that is my reflection with regard to goals and tasks. The one thing I would say is, that art and creativity is at its essence process. So once we have a creative inspiration to bring something new into the world, to make sure that we pick a process that we enjoy, that brings us into a positive mental emotional state, which means giving ourselves permission to adjust, change, or let go of conventions in how things are traditionally done. Even like I think of project planning. Well, I went to that project planning class, and it had a lot of good information. A lot of it was similar to my business training, and I have the way I learn and the way I do things is more visual and spatial, and I thrive with interconnected relationships, and I'm very much I have a strength in narrative reasoning, so I'm really good at reasoning through language and story. So I remember that, and I customize the project planning, the actual process, even the sheet that I use, customize it like a tailored fit suit to my talents, my strengths, and how I prefer to do things, so that I can more enjoy the process versus just, again, back to those subjectives, just trying to force a square peg in a round hole. So give yourself permission. Even be creative in massaging, adjusting, changing conventional processes so they really suit you and they're really customized. So I think I'm going to pause right there. Tomorrow I'll talk a little bit about just ideas and reflections on creating celebration plans so that you're rewarding yourself along the way, as well as at the very close. I don't think that's always done. And then we'll talk about reflections and roses, thorns, and buds, and we'll talk about the importance of the reflection process and how it all plays on each aspect of this project planning cycle. Just continually informs and starts an upward spiral of growth if we follow all the major steps in the way that it aligns with our talents. So pause right there. Yeah, it's great to be able to share some of these reflections. Again, this is all about independent will. This is more the mental side of independent will. How do we organize our thoughts and organize our attention? And project planning is one way to organize our attention, which then can help us organize our efforts, our actions and our behaviors to actually bring our creative vision into the world in whatever area that is. So with that, let's take a few moments here to just really cultivate our self-awareness and become aware of mood. So notice your mood right now. Meeting your mood without judgment, attachment, or resistance. Going back to those 3 parables that I shared weeks ago, if you remember those. Without judgment, the wise man that says maybe, and attachment. Remembering the king and the story of the king and touching the ring, this too shall pass. And resistance, remembering the wise man that would often would say, is that so, when met with adversity. The power of those 3. So as I feel in here, in my office, my mood is, I feel curious. And the most dominant sensation is I feel warm. Very hot. It's pretty hot in this room, so I'm feeling into that. Notice what your experience is. And then let's start to relax our bodies. So relaxing our eyes. Soften your eyes. Relax your jaw and chin. Relax your neck. Bring your shoulders up. And drop them down. And shoulders up again. Relaxing there. Softening your chest. Imagine your chest opening up like butterfly wings. You can imagine it opening up, use that imagery, it's opening up like a book. Whatever image of something opening that's powerful for you. And relaxing your diaphragm, so this, our large breathing muscle right at the lower, attached to the lower border of our rib cage. Sometimes I'll just put my fingers under my rib cage and see if that muscle is loose or if it's there's some space there. And then relaxing our belly. So sometimes you can do this Shinkan meditation practice where you place one hand over the other and just create a vibration here. And that vibration can help to loosen the tension patterns in your muscles. And then the imagery is of sifting sand. So as you feel that vibration in your body, you're imagining that a vibration is like sifting those thoughts, worries, concerns that out of your mind, down through your body, out through your feet is the imagery. And then bring your attention to your hips. So feeling into your hips. And we can, similar to the shoulders, we can contract and relax there. So you can contract your hip muscles, pull them up and in, and then release. And then pull your hip muscles up and in. And release. Relaxing your thighs, your knees, your calves and your feet. And we're just, again, we're creating space here, noticing your mood right now. Notice if that shifted. For me, I felt this sense of curiosity, this sense of warmth already that shifted. I feel more grounded. I'm starting to feel a little bit of coolness on the surface of my skin. So already there's been a shift in just this short time. And one thing we're doing here in this practice, this self-awareness practice, is we're legitimizing sensation and emotion along with our rational thinking. We're saying that this information is as important, sometimes more important, to how our day goes if we pay attention to it. Sensation really starts to speak the language of our autonomic nervous system, our survival part of our brain. Our mood and emotions ties into our limbic, our social emotional brain, and along with then our, the cortex, our thinking, our rational brain. And so there's this notion of three brains, one mind. But most of the time our Western culture predisposes us to just be aware of thinking and not emotion and not sensation. So we're really legitimizing all three aspects of our nervous system in our change and as we move throughout the day. So let's center here with our whole mind. Tying in sensation, emotion, and our thinking is creating, it's called a triune brain. All three brains, one mind. So with that awareness, let's center in our length. So we're straightening in our body and we're feeling that from the inside out. Straightening. And at the same time, we're settling, feeling ourselves as a bridge between heaven and earth, imagining our vertical line as the bridge between our spirituality and our physicality. You can imagine this body we're holding as we have this spiritual vision, and at the same time, we have our feet planted firmly on the earth so that we can take actions that are in alignment with that spiritual vision. Our inspiration and our vision, it doesn't just evaporate in a whirlwind of inspiration. And we're not so practical that we won't allow ourselves to dream. We're bringing that in as a both and. Then let's start to come into our width from left to right and placing our left hand on our chest, our heart center, right hand on our belly. And our width is the social emotional plane. It's our balance between self and others. So as we take this posture, this is just a symbol of a self-embrace. Reminds us to bring attention to our boundaries, personal boundaries, our commitments, ways we take care of ourselves, nurture ourselves, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And as I feel in here with all of you, I think of the artist study that we have been in for a number of days or weeks, and one of the ways we do that in the artist way is through artist dates, taking time to pre-plan 1 or 2 hours of something that's inspirational to us. So that's what comes to me. And then extending arms out, starting to extend your attention, your energy into the room. Maybe extend out to somebody, a loved one that's in the room with you or in the other room. So I'm extending out to my son. I'm extending out to my wife and my other son right above me. We got a couple four-leggeds here, a couple cats that are family pets that I'm extending out to them. And then maybe even further, extending out to some part of nature. Nature is a big part of our experience right now. With this whole, with the whole COVID-19 situation, nature is right on the forefront of our attention. So just extending out. There's a tree out there that always captures my attention. Extending out to the grasses, the snow. And then extending out to include everybody that's here on this live post. So I'm imagining in this room with me, imagining Darlene and Elizabeth and Slavko, Jeff, Robert, and Phyllis. So imagining you're all in this room with me, in this circle. And imagination is powerful. If we allow ourselves to imagine, it's almost as if it really, truly is in reality. And certainly it can be just as powerful mentally and emotionally. And then let's extend out a little further, reaching making a bigger reach, and let's include an enemy, a longtime enemy or opponent, and extend something positive, some love, compassion, maybe grant them a little forgiveness, a little acceptance. And when we do that, see if we can feel that shift in ourselves, letting go of a few drops of our resistance or our anger. Let's take a deep breath in from our left hand. Pull that breath through the center of the body. Exhale out your right. Then extending out. Breathing in through your right. Pull that breath through. And exhale out your left. And taking a moment to be centered in our width. Relaxing our arms. And let's move our attention to depth, which is the space in front of us and behind us. And just start to lean in a bit forward and just feeling into the space in front of you. Imagine the space in front of you as your future, where you're headed. Imagine the space behind you as your history, your past, all those things that support you. At your back, you can feel all the wisdom of your experience. Feel your teachers. Feel your competencies. Feel your friends, your allies, and your family at your back. And at your front, moving into this unknown space, connected to a vision of what's possible. Connected to what we're longing for, what we're yearning for, the changes we're longing for and yearning for. Connected to our felt sense of purpose. What are we here to do? What are we made to do? All those intentions can help move us forward confidently into the unknown. Then let's center here, find an effortless, a balance point here, where all the weight of our body is down through our bones. So there's an effortlessness, a felt sense of effortlessness in sitting or standing here. Let's just take a deep breath in from the space in front of you with your imagination, your attention, and exhale out your back. Then take a deep breath in your back. Pull that breath through, exhale out into the space in front of you. One more time with your imagination and your attention. Take a deep breathe in your future, if you will. Pull that through and pull it through your body. Exhale out into your history. Again, breathe in your history about 10 feet behind you. Pull it through your body. Exhale out into your future. Just feeling that centeredness between past, present, and future. And as we feel that effortlessness in our body, sitting here or standing, just allow that to be the felt sense of the present moment. Let's bring our attention and energy to our right hand, placing that a couple inches below your navel. As you feel your hand there, feel the temperature of it, feel the shape of it, and allow, as you feel that, allow that to shift your attention so you can drop out of your thinking self and more into your feeling, intuitive self. Let's do 3 breaths together. So a deep breath into our center. A second breath. A deep breath into our purpose. And then a third breath, a deep breath into the mystery, all that is beyond our knowing. Take a moment to feel. I invite you to close your eyes as we prepare for the meditation. And as you close your eyes, take a moment to set your intention. Remind yourself, for the sake of what, that you're doing this meditation practice today. And then we'll enter in with the words of the poem from yesterday. My body, you are an animal whose appropriate behavior is concentration and discipline. In effort of an athlete, of a saint, and of a yogi, well trained, you will become for me a gate through which I leave myself, and a gate through which I enter myself, a plumb line to the center of the earth, and a cosmic ship to Jupiter. My body, you are an animal for whom ambition is right. Splendid possibilities are open to us. My body, you are an animal whose appropriate behavior is concentration and discipline. in effort of an athlete, of a saint, and of a yogi. Well trained, you will become for me a gate through which I leave myself, and a gate through which I enter myself. A plumb line to the center of the earth, and a cosmic ship to Jupiter. My body, you are an animal for whom ambition is right. Splendid possibilities are open to us. And as we close our practice today, remind yourself again, for the sake of what? And then on your next exhale, slowly begin to move your arms and legs. And then very slowly and very gently, begin to open your eyes and let the outside world come back in again. Notice your mood right now, and notice if that's shifted. Notice if the sensations that you're aware of have shifted. And may we all continue to keep our full intelligence in our self-awareness today, so that we're aware of sensation, emotion, and rational thought, and we're moving seamlessly from those three information sources, and they're informing us, and they're informing us about our decisions, how we're moving through a situation when it's time to center. Tomorrow we'll just be exploring a little further into the mental side of cultivating our independent will, and talking a little bit about, in this area of project planning, as we bring our creative ideas into the world, the importance of celebration plans, and taking time for in detailed and intentional reflection, and just talk about how that all weaves into the creative process. So as we began that beginning, or that seminal quote that really inspired all of this during this COVID-19 situation, where our external liberty has been reduced and limited, this is an opportunity to expand our internal freedom. And really off of that Viktor Frankl quote, and that's what I'll close with today, this morning, which is, between the stimulus and the response, our response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom to choose our response. And it is in those choices that lie our growth and our freedom. Wishing you all freedom today. Bye.